Okay, so using Google Keyword Planner, like, I do know there are so many tools out there that tout keyword research, but I guess maybe both of you guys, Seaton and Natasha, you could give some context on I know it's the source, it's obviously the source of the data, right? But why do we go to Google Keyword Planner as our go-to?
Immediately, I would say you again, Jonathan, you've hit the nail right on the head. Using Google Keyword Planner, you're getting it from the source. So Google, a lot of the other tools, they are crawling, they getting information after the fact, they getting it in a roundabout way. With Google Keyword Planner, you are literally getting it from search results, you're getting it from Google. So it becomes very easy to forecast what past trends are and what future trends will be on a particular keyword. We don't just use Keyword Planner. So again, we've got Search Atlas. There's a variety of other tools that we've used off and on. I would say, especially when we start looking at competitor keywords, when we want to run a campaign that is specifically targeting a market that a competitor is the leader in that market, and we want to start seeing, what keywords are they using, what ad copy are they using. I would say that's normally where we lean a little bit more heavily into the tools, because they have different technologies that allow us to see what the competitors are doing. But if we're looking more just for a straightforward search intent, keyword intent keywords, that's normally when we would use Google Keyword Planner to get that forecast.
Okay. And Natasha, I know you're working a lot with our strategy team. So whenever, I guess when we talk about our structure, we have strategists and coordinators, and as what you're doing is really digging into the nuts and bolts of the campaigns, making sure everything is functioning correctly and things like that. What do you think is, from the strategist's perspective to you, what do you think is most important for you to have from them to be able to build a successful campaign foundation?
I think the most important thing for me to get from our strategist is, obviously, I need the whole overview of what the campaign is about. So I need to know what type of campaigns are we launching, the target audience, like who we're targeting exactly, to understand like what exactly am I building and how to do it. So besides, obviously, the copy is now created by our strategist, everything. So I get the whole thing ready, but I need to just get an understanding so that when I go back into the campaigns after having created them, I need to be able to see what the goal was. Are we reaching the goal? Is everything going well? So that I can then report back and be like, okay, this is what the initial goal was, but it's not going this way. Can we re-strategize, or can we implement changes based on other tools that we have? Optimizer and Magix, those are also tools that help give us insights.
Yeah, giving us analysis.
Yeah. What would you say to clients that tell you, look, we've launched a campaign. Why do you need to do maintenance on it? Why do you need to keep making changes to it? Can't you just set it and forget it? Is there ever a place in ads where you could see, you just create the campaign, you set it and you forget it? Or what are you seeing when you work in the ad accounts that tell you, no, we need to be daily doing audits and making changes to this campaign?
We can't just set a campaign and forget about it, because we need to be able to see, are the right people searching our ad? Are we communicating effectively? Are they getting it? Because quite commonly we'll create, for example, we do franchising most of the time, and you'll find that there's a lot of people looking for job opportunities. So I need to go in and see what are our keywords? Are they misleading? Do we need to change them, or do we need to exclude? Because sometimes for example, on Google, we would exclude some countries, but you'll still see that the ad is showing a lot of the people that are searching are in the wrong location. So we need to go back and do those changes so that we reach the right people.
I have a question, not just for you, but for the room. What would you say is like, I mean, you have the blueprint before you go and create the ad, and you have the copy and you have the graphics. What would you say is really the bread and butter of a successful ad? Like, what is a key component that makes successful ad?
That I can immediately say is the consistency of. So when we think of the goal, that is the starting point. That is the most important thing. What is our goal? With this ad, are we trying to get someone to phone us? Are we trying to get them to make a purchase? Or are we simply trying to get them to submit a contact form? Once we know the goal, it becomes about consistency of keeping that messaging of this is what we're trying to achieve. So I would say the messaging, the creative, the landing page, everything has to speak to that goal, but it's also got to be very clear, consistent messaging throughout. So that think of it like this: if I was going to buy a pair of shoes and I see an ad saying, hey, Black Friday, these shoes are on sale, 70% off. I'm expecting that, I would like shoes, Black Friday, great, that's a good deal. When I click that, if I get to a landing page that's all of a sudden showing me other apparel, and it's not immediately getting me to the shoe that got my interest, now you start getting in the area, well, maybe I'll look at this other apparel if it's on a really good deal, but I really like the shoe that I saw in the creative. Now you're making it difficult for me to find that shoe. So what happens is you start losing my interest, because I saw an ad, it spoke to me, it resonated with me, and I wanted to take that action, and I got to a place where you are now distracting me with other things. So I would say it's very much about that consistency. Let me see the ad, I click to it, you get me to what I saw in the ad, and you've got continuous messaging that's, yes, this is my goal, I want to buy those shoes that you've advertised to me.
So that's a good point, and I think that's a very easy illustration for people to understand, right? Because everybody needs to buy things, whatever it is. You buy a product. If you see an ad for a product on digital, you want to go to that product to buy it. Yeah. I think there's a little bit of a different component when we're talking B2B and we're talking lead generation. We do a lot of lead generation. We also do e-commerce, but I think on the lead generation side, it's a little bit more to keep that consistency is a little bit maybe less simple, because you don't just send to the product, right?
Correct.
You have to maintain the narrative. So I know this is something we've been talking about a lot with the copy for the landing pages, copy for the ads and everything, but maybe like how can we paint that narrative? How can we paint the narrative of, I'm looking for a B2B service provider, I've seen this this ad that's maybe hitting a pain point I have.
Yeah.
Okay. How do we craft that entire journey to make sure that we've put we've continued that person, and they understand they're still in the right place? This was.
I really think, again, when you mention pain points, so it's not just about the pain points, but it's highlighting the narrative. So let's say if we want to take this to a space we're very familiar with, which is franchising. We already have identified that most people, their reason for buying into a franchise is obviously they have the financial means. That's number one, and that's ideally who we're targeting. Let's be real. As much as everybody, it would be amazing if everybody could start a franchise. It's not realistic. So we have to start with that as you've got to have the financial means to invest in a franchise. But from there, quite often the reason is you may have a very good job in corporate. That is why you have the financial means to invest in a franchise. But you are tired of the corporate lifestyle. You are tired of grinding 9 to 5 and having after hours calls, and maybe your CEO, you're having multiple meetings with your CEO after hours, and you're just tired of that corporate grind. Now, That doesn't mean starting a franchise is easy. Again, it's a business, but what you have is you have a very strong brand. You have support systems, you have infrastructure, you have training, and you can, depending on the franchise model, there are models where you could be an absentee franchise, which is you're more of just an investor. But realistically, we are going to take you on that journey. So we're going to speak to, are you tired of the 9 to 5 grind? Are you tired of not having time with your family? So through the ad copy and then the landing page, that is something we want to repeat consistently. And then we want to repeat the franchise messaging about contact us to start your franchise journey, or invest in a franchise today. Whatever that call to action is, we'll be very consistent with that. But we do want to paint that narrative of the whole reason you started this journey is because you are tired of that corporate grind. Now, that's not true for everyone. That's just one example. There's various reasons why people may want to start a franchise, but I think it's painting that narrative, being consistent with that narrative, and attracting people where that narrative is true for them. That is their day to day.
I mean, so that is one narrative, and then obviously we know because we work with several different types of brands. There's people who are looking to make a community impact.
Of course.
There's people who are looking to be just the investor. There's people who do want to go from working in an office to they actually want to go out and get their hands dirty and be, doing repair work. There's so many franchise models. There's 7,000 plus franchise models in the U.S. active now, 1,200 in the U.K., around 1,000 in South Africa here. So there's so many options for different people at different price points and different expectations with the brand. But with the narrative, I guess with just the concept of the narrative in ads, it brings me just to the thought of I guess how do we set up taking it from one ad to the landing page is one thing, but we know just general marketing, like the amount of exposure you have to get in front of somebody to actually get their attention. What is the overall picture of how we're setting up our ads? Maybe Natasha, you could give some context around the types of campaigns we're setting up and why.
Okay, so I would say the basic to have is a lead gen campaign, and then we also have an awareness for someone that's not aware of the client, someone that's never come across the opportunity, and then we have a retargeting ad as well. So that's standard, but then we also implement like competitor campaigns and stuff like that. But those three are the most important ones, like when we get started, like having a lead gen, awareness, and retargeting for both Facebook and Google.
I would expand on what Natasha said. So this is where it's also a discussion with the client. So realistically, it depends on the budget. Like at the end of the day, we are working on a budget. Not all franchise opportunities have limitless investment. So depending on the budget and how much, if I want to say bang for their buck they want to get, that will also dictate the path. So, for example, you could do branded search as well. I mean, there's a lot of franchises that are very popular, that are sought after because people know the brand very well. So in that case, you don't really have to sell the narrative of the 9 to 5, because in that case, you're looking for somebody that is familiar with that brand. They like, the philosophies of that brand, the principles of that brand. So all you're doing at that point is positioning the opportunity that aligns with their interest in that brand. The awareness piece that Natasha mentioned, that's very much, if I don't know this brand at all, I don't know this is a thing, I don't know this is a business model, I didn't know this was an opportunity. So we are, again, getting that in front of you, positioning that opportunity in front of you. Now, again, we speak a lot of the narrative, but it's not just one narrative. So we have to be real, especially with awareness. We might give various different narratives that speak to all the different pain points, all the different reasons you may want to invest in that franchise business. And then the retargeting, because, you know, in marketing we speak of touch points. There's so many touch points before you actually commit to making a decision. So it's very seldom you'll see one ad, unless it's an impulse. And that's why in e-commerce that's quite regular. If you may have an impulse buy. When it comes to investing in a franchise or making a life-changing decision, that's very, very seldom, if ever, an impulse decision. It's normally a long process of doing research, doing even competitor analysis. You know, you might discover a franchise opportunity via awareness. Now it takes you down a rabbit hole of, are there other franchise opportunities like that? Because you may want to look at the different investment levels and support structures and things like that. So that's where our retargeting comes into play. You've seen an ad of ours, maybe you even visited the landing page. Now we are going to again put that brand in front of you so that it's always top of mind, so that even if you don't take a decision now, a week down the line, you're going to be reminded, hey, don't forget this is an opportunity, and we'll keep speaking to that narrative and take you down that path to take an action.
Yes. And it's a bit of a, I guess, a loaded question. But as someone, you know, that has a lot of experience in ads, not particularly me, but you too, how much, in your experience, do you think psychology and consumer research goes into ads? And, for example, do you find is it more successful, do you think, the visual element of it or the copy? And if it's the copy, do you find short form or more longer form content more successful?
So we have tools that actually help us monitor this. Again, Natasha mentioned a few of them, but we have tools that run on the ad accounts. We obviously do a lot of deep diving, a lot of audits. We look at the feedback loop from our clients as well. So we have at Solucru what we call the lead tracker, especially if we're talking lead generation. We have a lead tracker that helps us actually assign a quality score to a particular lead, and from there we can dial it into what campaign did that come from, what keyword did that come from. So we can use that knowledge to, again, optimize our campaigns, because we can see, okay, this ad worked well, that creative worked well, that ad copy worked well, and we can start eliminating what's not working well. What I would say is there's a lot of variability in that, because I would say immediately you can have the most amazing, you can have award-winning ad copy. I would say where most ad campaigns fail is on the landing page. And this isn't just something we do at Solucru. This has been since the dawn of digital marketing on the internet. There has been what you would call a very clear best practice of what makes a really good high converting landing page. And it does touch on psychology as well, certain ways of mentioning things, certain ways of highlighting things, certain ways of getting people on the path of what your objective is. That's where CTAs play a very big part in that. And again, even there with CTAs that we can unpack, certain CTAs are going to resonate, certain CTAs that you think would resonate just won't. You'd get nothing on it. But I would say that is really where it mostly would fall apart, is if you've got relatively competent ads, you could probably still convert, as long as when they get to the place they have to convert, that is very, very clear, concise, and taking them down that path, because that's normally where it will fall off, because you'll normally see a lot of people click an ad and then they do nothing. They leave the page. They don't take an action. So you want to make sure the page they get to is relevant and set up with best practices to ensure we can get them to take an action.
Yeah, I think that's all. I mean, that's like a very logical path, and I think the feedback loop is key. I think from the psychology as well, yes, psychology goes into the strategy and the creation, and yes, there's some of those things on the landing page and the colors, because we, as Natasha mentioned earlier, we do use Magix. It's a Facebook analysis tool. It's essentially running various proprietary analysis on ads, on the ad results. It's determining which copy is the copy long or short that's performing better. Is this graphic or this video or this whatever performing better? And we may have, for example, we may have for one client 27, 54 variations running at a given time, to give the analysis tools the ability to conclude that, right, to point us in the right direction. Was a woman more getting better results in the graphics or the video? Is a man getting better results? Playing on color theory and things like that. So psychology does play into it a lot, and I think especially on the lead gen side, as Seaton said, though, then it also comes from the reality, so the real world piece, where so many ads people get caught up in the ad stats side of things, and they don't necessarily have a mechanism to know beyond the ad stats. They know they've improved the ad stats. There's more leads, lower cost per lead. Those things are trending well. Do they have a mechanism to tie back exactly which of those leads was good or bad, right? And so we do. And so that's helped us get with the client, because then the client, when the client takes that further, they know now who has become a customer or who has purchased a franchise or whatever the campaign is. And so now we have, back all the way to that source attribution data. They have, our clients are typically tracking things as they move through the sales process. So all of that together, like this holistic view of that, is what then gives the client the ability to come back to us at the end of the year, for instance, and say, what we've actually discovered is last year we thought it was this, we were looking for this man in their 40s or whatever who's in that corporate role. Yeah. But actually, we have this really good path for women in their 50s who are becoming empty nesters, right? And so I'm giving an example of how ideal franchisee profiles can change, right? And so it's by giving that, getting that full context. I do want to talk, though, a little bit about Natasha, because we are talking about these analysis tools we use. So another analysis tool we use for Google Ads is Optimizer. And Natasha, I know you are heavily involved with using Optimizer. You've been using some of the blueprints that we've installed. Maybe give some context on how that has changed how you look at accounts.
Well, it has, in terms of, it's quite similar to, as Jonathan just now mentioned, Magix. So, but obviously we use it mostly for Google Ads. So it has given me insights on like different keywords we could use, because it does give suggestions. Also, it does give us like an overview if we should like improve budgets, increase budgets, and obviously if that like happens, if it suggests that, that's when Seaton then comes into the picture, whereby do we have the budget, do we not? But obviously the budget are set on the tool, so I can see, okay, we are under budget, but that's a conversation that I need to have with either our strategist or then Seaton.
So you mean the campaign, is it
the
spending?
Campaign, yes, is it overspending, is it underspending? Because it could be that we are not over budget, and it has suggested that we should increase our budget a bit more, because it's low, because obviously Google does suggest, for example, not for search campaigns, maybe PMAX, they do have like a suggested spend, and you'll find that sometimes we are lower than that, and we don't have quite a lot of campaigns running. So if that happens and the tool then suggests that you guys should like improve like your budget and stuff like that. So it does like give an overview of the entire running, the keywords, suggested keywords, which keywords we should negative keyword, because I feel like it helps a lot in terms of the maintenance. But what we don't normally do is we don't implement. I don't mostly implement everything that it says, that Optimizer says. I would just look at the suggestions first, and then when I go into the account, I'd rather do it manually and not just on the tool.
So
but I do
because
look.
you can action it.
You
from,
can action it
okay.
from the tool, but I prefer just looking at its suggestions first and then getting like an overview of what it thinks, like what it says should happen, and then I go on Google and implement what I have to implement manually.
Okay.